Hello, friends from Five Reasons. Welcome back to our Marlins report. Today I'm at Marlins Park, and I picked this day especially because I knew Sixto Sanchez was pitching today, and that was something that I wanted to watch live. And what a performance he gave us! The I don't know 100 people that are here at Marlins Park today, maybe if that, and we enjoyed his first complete game, and it was even more special because he did it against the Phillies, right? The team that traded him in order to get JT Realmuto. So the Marlins right now are half game behind the Phillies, still with a couple of games to play in this 7 game series. The Marlins are winning 3-2 in this some sort of playoff series that we're watching right now between the Marlins and the Phillies. So let's break down the game, the Sixto Sanchez pitching game today with David Fernandez. David, welcome. I know you're watching the Dolphins. The Dolphins are about to lose again, but we'll talk about it later in another episode here in Five Reasons. Today, let's focus on what Sixto Sanchez did because it was impressive. 90 pitches total, 7 innings, and only 4 strikeouts, and we'll talk about it. But he was very dominant, very efficient, and his first complete game in what seems to be a very bright future for the Marlins.
Yeah, listen, Alejandro, thanks for having me on, and let's jump on here so we can talk a little bit of Marlins baseball because, as you said, the Marlins pulled off the win here in game number one, largely thanks to Sixto Sanchez's performance. You know, the offense did just enough to grab this win. We saw another sort of frustrating situation develop. You know, bases loaded and less than 2 outs, and they couldn't sort of extend the lead when they had the opportunity. But Sixto was awesome. And all of this, it comes probably with a little bit of extra feeling for him. I know that he's not very emotive on the mound, but going up against his former club, the club that traded him away, he was the centerpiece in that JT Realmuto trade for the Marlins. And then, the irony there is that, the battery essentially that the Phillies sent the Marlins for Realmuto, that was the battery that the Marlins had in play today, right? With Alfaro catching the game for Sixto, and he was great. 7 inning complete game. He gave up 3 walks, which moving into this start, he had only given up 2 in his previous 4 starts. So a little bit of maybe out of character for him in that spot, and as you said, he only had the 4 strikeouts, but still. What he was able to do here today was so incredibly important for this club because they're fighting for their playoff position. They're clinging to one of those wild card spots, and they're still hanging around there. They're within striking distance of the Phillies now, a half game behind them with this latest win. And, the Braves aren't running away with the division either. The team, they've said repeatedly that they're going for the division win. They're not just happy getting in as a wild card. I mean, I know we would all be happy to get in as a wild card for the Marlins. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2003. But the reality is his performance here, after the disappointing performance last night from the club, from Jose Ureña specifically, it really kind of injects this life, right? And hopefully the offense can bounce back here in game 2. And if the Marlins can sweep this doubleheader, they've won this 7-game series with the Phillies, right? And they've positioned themselves to overtake the Phillies in the standings as we're moving through this final homestand of the season and making this real playoff push at this point.
Right, right. So yes, it's a very important game, the one that's coming up, and this one was important too. Game 5 of a series, of a 7-game series, is always a pivotal point too. And Sixto Sanchez did what an ace is supposed to do, right? Win that important game, and he did it today. And we were talking about the strikeouts, right? It was only 4 strikeouts, but watching it live, you can tell batters more aggressive. They're not waiting as long because they know once they get in 1 to strike counts, they're in trouble, right? They don't want to see that changeup. They don't want to see that filthy slider or whenever he climbs up the ladder and throws 100 to the letters, which is unhittable. So I want to go through all of these because the first strikeout came in the first inning. That was when with the 99 miles per hour fastball. But then you saw more aggressive Phillies team. And if you look at it, the first one of the two base, he at the end it was three of them, but one of the hardest hit balls today against Sixto Sanchez was that double to open up the second inning by Baum. And it was almost a home run, and he was aggressive. You saw the first fastball, and then he jumped on it, and then the Phillies manufactured that run very well. The ground ball to second, fly ball to center field, 1-0. And it was important for Sanchez that the Marlins came back kind of quick, right? In the third inning, uh, like you said, it could have been a long, more runs. We expected more runs. We had the bases loaded with Garrett Cooper and Isan Diaz coming up, so you expect at least one more run there, especially with those two guys coming. But it's been critical at some points. The lack of contact, right? It's hard, of course. I mean, Gary Cooper struck out with a high fastball that had late movement, and it's pretty hard in a 3-2 just to let that pitch go because you never know if it's going to be strikeout. But you have to produce, especially when you have your ace on the mound. And that was the only, well, not the only in the Marlins had runners, but that was the only very aggressive attack that the Marlins had. The best situations for them to score, and we only scored two. We were lucky that Sixto Sanchez was just lights out today because later in the game we had an at bat against Bryce Harper, Manson first and second, two outs, and Harper hit it square. I mean, it was 105 miles an hour coming off his bat, but it was straight to San Diaz. So we got kind of lucky in that part.
Yeah, listen, what Sanchez was able to do today was, again, incredibly impressive, right? Because, as you said, the Phillies came out swinging. They were incredibly aggressive against him. Actually, we saw a very similar situation happen with Trevor Rogers the other night, where Rogers was dominant through the first two innings, but then the Phillies just started swinging essentially at everything, right? Because they knew Rogers was going to be in the zone. And actually, Dontrell Willis was talking about that on Twitter. I had a little Twitter back and forth with him during that game, and he was talking specifically about that, how that kind of lineup with the Phillies, they become aggressive when they know the pitcher's going to be in the strike zone. The Phillies knew that Sixto was going to be in the strike zone because he'd only walked two batters in his first four starts, right? So they knew he was going to be in and around the strike zone. They knew that obviously he's got a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. So they wanted to get on top of those things. So it's credit to Sanchez that he was able to mix up not only the fastball, but the slider and the changeup. His changeup was particularly good here today, right? And he was able to keep them off balance to a certain extent and really limit them to just the one run. But the frustrations with the offense, I mean, at this point, there's no answer, right? I mean, I don't know what the answer is. Hitting coach Eric Duncan has obviously spoken to the hitters, right? And James Rowson, who's the bench coach, well known for his work with the Minnesota Twins offense coming into this season. I mean, they've talked so much about doing damage, right? Going to the plate and doing something, being productive, having productive outs. And in the third inning, when the Marlins took the lead, they had the opportunity to break that game open. I mean, you had bases loaded. You have less than two outs, and neither Garrett Cooper nor Isan Diaz is able to make any kind of contact, right? Cooper chases, what would have ultimately been ball four, right? But he chases that pitch and he strikes out to bring up Diaz. And then Diaz, I know that this is only his third game back, only like his second or third day back in the lineup and all that stuff. So he's still kind of rounding into form, maybe a little bit rusty, but he looked lost in that at bat, right? He took strike two and he took strike three, like looking, not even swinging. So that's incredibly frustrating. And as a pitcher, again, it's to Sanchez's credit that he didn't allow that to affect him in any way, because he went right out there, in the top of the fourth, and he mowed down the Phillies again, right? So Sanchez was able to meet every challenge that came across him today, and he really, really showed the stuff of an ace, right? He really showed the stuff that we've all been excited to see, and that what we've seen here early in his career. His idol is Pedro Martinez, and he was able to talk to Pedro Martinez on MLB Network the other day, and so many people have likened him to Pedro. I mean, he even has the 45 tattoo on his neck, right? Yesterday, it was either yesterday or the day before yesterday, Sixto was talking about how he wants to switch his number 245 for next year. He was given the number 73 in spring training, and he has to stay with that number for a year. So, but his plan is to switch over to 45 for Pedro. And we know, Pedro was one of the best pitchers in MLB history, right? And incredibly successful as an ace. And we see that potential in Sixto. And today was just another example of how he really could be that front end guy for the Marlins.
And we were talking about pitch usage, right?
Mhm.
And you mentioned that moment in the fourth inning, right after they got the lead, he struck out Segura and Baum, two of his four strikeouts. So he came shoving right after the team supported him with those couple of runs. And then in the fifth and in the sixth inning, he was helped by a couple of double plays that were also key in the game tonight. Okay, before we answer to Anthony Manzano's question here, who's the future of the rotation for the Marlins down the road? Those besides Sisto. Before that, I want to show you guys the pitches, the amount of pitches that he used, and the way that no, he's not only a thrower. He's actually combining a lot of different pitches, and you're gonna see it here. This is from Baseball Savant. You can tell how many sinkers he threw. 29 sinkers, 24 seam fastballs, 19 sliders, 16 changeups, and 6 curveballs. So a lot of mixture there. He's not just a flamethrower. He's one of those pitchers that can actually combine all his repertoire and be effective with all of his pitches, and that's very important.
Yeah, listen, another impressive element there. I mean, we saw going into the seventh inning, he had thrown, I mean, I don't know what the exact number was,
I got
but
it. I got it here. He had 75 pitches after the sixth inning. So I was
yeah,
wondering because in other games, he didn't come to the eighth inning with the same amount of pitches. And Jimmy Garcia was warming up. He was ready in the bullpen. So I thought Manningley was going to bring Garcia. Actually, I was surprised when I saw Sixto Sanchez coming back for the seventh inning.
yeah, and on the broadcast, they even showed like Kinsler was starting to toss and warm up a little bit too. So that Mattingly really wanted to grab this game, which, to his credit, he didn't pull Sixto after, he gives up the base runner there to start the seventh. But what's impressive, I mean, 75 pitches through 6 innings. He ends up with 90 pitches, and he's still hitting 100, as he's approaching the end of his start, right? As he's approaching his 100th pitch, I know he threw 90, but he's still hitting the gun at 100 miles per hour, which is incredibly impressive for him. And, again, the strikeout total was lower than what we've seen, but as you said, he was mixing up his pitches. He had the Phillies off balance all day, and he was able to induce those key ground ball outs when he needed them, get those key double plays, in addition to having those 4 strikeouts. So his performance today was incredibly impressive. And I guess to get back to the question that was posed,
yes, right there.
So the future top of the rotation for the Marlins down the road besides Sixto. Well, Sixto, again, 1A or 1B at this point, down the line, right? Sandy is probably going to be on the front end of this rotation too. I mean, I know that he's had his ups and downs, but again, he's coming back after a long layoff with COVID and things like that. You look at Pablo Lopez and you wonder whether or not he can regain his early season form. I mean, some of his last few starts, you worry a little bit about some of what you've seen. But listen, if Pablo Lopez is your number 3 or number 4 starter, you're in pretty good shape, right? Beyond that, you really like what you saw from Trevor Rogers. He's got a really bright future as well. Could he be a number 3 starter down the line? Certainly, his size and his length really kind of makes hitters uncomfortable. He's got to adjust, but remember, he's never pitched above AA. The guy that the Marlins have going tonight, right? So for game 2, the Marlins have called up Braxton Garrett, who was a first round pick in 2016. And he ended up missing a year with Tommy John surgery after starting his Marlins career. He pitched at the single A level in 2018. In 2019, and then he made it to AA at the end of last season. He's a guy that could also be a potential sort of middle of the rotation arm for the Marlins, a 3 or 4. He's a left-handed pitcher. He's got great size. His fastball goes from 90 to 93. He tops out at 96. He's got a great curveball, and he's also mixing in that changeup. So Braxton Garrett, I know we're going to see him today for the first time. He's another sort of potential arm for this rotation down the line. And that's not to say, like, we've heard about Edward Cabrera, who's near the majors. The team drafted Max Meyer, and we've heard a great deal about him. So he's another sort of potential arm. So the Marlins are kind of stocked here with these starters. And that's not even touching on guys like Nick Neidert and Jordan Holloway, some of these other guys that the team, was really excited about moving into this season as well. So the Marlins, their starting rotation, their future is incredibly bright, right? So yeah, I mean, to answer the question, Sixto, Sandy, in the middle there, probably Pablo Lopez, Trevor Rogers, the guy today, Braxton Garrett, and then down the line, Edward Cabrera and Max Meyer for sure.
The game's about to start here. We have Garrett on the mound. Let's go through the lineup today for the Marlins for the second game. But before that, I wanted to talk about Marte. Marte, maybe not the MVP from last game, but he again responded at the right time, the right point. How many important hits he has so far to tie the game or to put the team ahead late in games. So
yeah,
he's
he's
very impressive. Yeah?
Six of his RBIs with the Marlins have either tied the score for the team or put the team ahead, and we saw that again, here today. I mean, he's been such a huge upgrade to this lineup. I mean, Jonathan Villar was a very talented, very capable player, but there is a definite difference in this lineup with Marte in there versus Jonathan Villar, and it's nice to see. And he's doing well defensively in center field. So things are happening with this lineup that are positive. Now they have to continue that here today, right? They have to keep that going. The offense. Listen, they're going to need more than 2 runs in order to win this next game, would be my guess. So, the offense certainly needs to come alive here this afternoon.
Right. Okay, so the lineup for the second game that it's about to start, it's going to have Corey Dickerson in left field, Starling Marte center field. Jesus Aguilar is coming back to the starting lineup at first base. Matt Joy is going to be in right field, so no Lewis Brinson. We have Brian Anderson in third. Gary Cooper is going to be the DH. Jazz Chisholm is going to play again, but he's going to play second base this time. Miguel Rojas is coming back to the lineup after having some issues with his hand yesterday. He didn't play the first game. And Chad Wallach is going to be behind home plate. So the game started. We have to turn off this live streaming so we don't get sued by MLB. But thank you guys for joining us. Uncle Joe say go Marlins. Thank you, Uncle Joe, for being with us. I see you're a Kings fan. Go ahead and check our YouTube channel for all the Hurricanes shows that we have here. And Anthony Manzano says his future top of the rotation is going to have Max Meyer, who just picked from the draft, Sixto, and Sandy. So there you go. We'll talk about the future. We'll do it in another episode of the Marlins Report. So thank you, David, and I'll see you soon. All right?
Thanks, Alejandro. Go Marlins.
Have a good one.